observations, but one thing that Drew pointed out is that this is synthesizing. This is not gene editing. When you gene edit, you ultimately stay within lineage land, right? You edit the genome of your kid, that when you do IVF or so you stay within lineage land. There are the two parents, and then you edit one gene or multiple, and then the baby's born. So synthetic biology is really a rupture with this: two parents, one child, two parents, one child, etc. You can sort of create from scratch. But here is a philosophical observation that I think can lead to a discussion, and that is, if you recall that I started with what is a human being and this idea that humans are set apart from mere nature. One of the points of pride, which I think is shown about artificial intelligence, nicely showed, is that humans can build stuff that doesn't exist in nature, that is sort of set apart from nature. When we use the term culture, we usually mean something, or historically at least we have met something that is not found in nature and that therefore sets us apart from animals and machines. When we have cultural history or cultural anthropology, it's this stuff that, as if there were a separate human reality. And of course, the artificial in the late 19th century, when engineering was at its prime time and pride, what was better than the natural, because the natural is wild, is untamed, is defunct, is sort of primitive, whereas the artificial is refined. So when you take something like synthetic biology, and Drew once said to me that the currently existing life forms are not even the snowflake on the tip of possible life forms, not even the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg of possible life forms. And you think about the possibility of printing genomes and putting them into cells, and the kinds of organisms that don't exist at all that you could build. We had a conversation about dragons, which may sound funny, but actually could be possible, right? So then you have a whole series of beings in the world that are entirely natural. They're totally natural, but they don't happen to exist in nature. So what happens to that distinction between technology and nature that we usually rely on, that we operate with when we enter post-lineage land? What is a human being when we enter post-lineage land? The distinctions or the vocabularies that we have available seem to no longer work. And that's exactly where I think that there is a sort of interface between Agnieszka's work and Drew's work. Agnieszka actually explores possibilities of thinking diagonally to the old distinctions. And Drew's work is opening up spaces where the old distinctions no longer work. So that to explore that space is our goal. I didn't trigger that.
Trigger him too much.
Well, what is important for me in my work, and we're discussing this a lot at the Berlin Institute, is how these disruptions that happen, such as the invention of CRISPR or automation, AI research, how our models that we, our social, political, economic models that we inherited from the past, they're simply inadequate to deal with these disruptions, with this new phenomena, discoveries, developments, and we have to create new models, new kind of scaffold, new vocabulary, new toolkit, to not only talk about this, but to think about this with new, with almost like a new logic, to kind of reconstruct our worldview from scratch. And this is what I am trying to do in my work, and this is why these conversations at the Berlin Institute have been so interesting for me, because this is what we're doing here. We're trying to discuss how can we just rebuild from scratch everything that all these notions that were used, how maybe we can discard of these notions. So, for example, the notion of human nature and technology. Just to give you an example, the way that contemporary both science and culture thinks about the notion of AI. First of all, the term artificial intelligence. What is artificial today? As Tobias and Drew pointed out, the very term artificial is kind of suspicious, because we now know that artificial is not really artificial, maybe it's natural. Also, culture seems to very often anthropomorphize artificial intelligence. So this idea of like a future supercomputer is understood as a single individual mind. But actually in reality, intelligence is always distributed, cognition is distributed in society, in termite colonies, in the human brain or outside the brain, in bacterial colonies. So so the way that we have to think about the future intelligence, future AI, it is more likely to be more of a network, of a distributed network of not only machines but possibly humans with machines and with other organisms as well.
True. You said that what you enjoy about the Berkman Institute is that there is not just an encounter between arts and science, but that philosophy and humanities are also part of it. Why do you think that that's actually important for the exploration of post-lineage land?
You could start with the question of